Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
Hello, and welcome to this Monday edition of the Bluegrass Brooklyn podcast. I'm your host, Liz Wolfe, and in these editions, we explore topics that are related to and supporting our favorite music, bluegrass. Enjoy the show. Well, hello and welcome to this Bluegrass Brooklyn podcast episode. I'm excited to have Erin Dube on with me today. She's a woman in bluegrass. She's a multi-instrumentalist. She plays both bluegrass and Irish. And most recently, she's become the Warnick Method office manager. She's a longtime Warnick Method teacher. She lives in Rhode Island. And welcome onto the show.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, wow, you're really taking on a lot. You've been a Warnick instructor for a while. How many years?
I think about a decade. And yes, it is going to be a big adventure. I'm filling some quite big shoes. Leslie Deere is stepping aside, and she is the person who is training me. So right now, she is pretty much doing double the work as she's taking on recording videos for me to know how to do all this work. I'll tell you, as a Warnick Method teacher, I did not realize at all how much work is going on behind the scenes, but I am eagerly learning it all, and I hope to be able to serve all of our current teachers. What Warnick Method provides these teachers is really helpful. I don't know what it would be to have to set up all this as myself as a teacher.
Absolutely. And for anybody out there listening who's considered becoming a Warnick Method instructor, just to know there is a tremendous amount of support, although there is also a lot of effort you put in yourself. You want a full class, you got to do some marketing.
Exactly.
There's a lot that it's very systematic and really well developed. So I know you have a lot that you're learning. This is a little backstory. I also have had some interaction with you because you and your dad, Paul Dube, have been at the Gray Fox Festival in the Slow Jam tent.
Yes.
Warnick Method. Is it an hour?
Yep. So that's called Jam Central Station.
Right.
So it was the Slow Jam tent. So the history of that is actually, this is our 25th year. And when I say we, I mean my dad's 25th year. He, 25 years ago, pitched this idea to Gray Fox. And if you've been to bluegrass festivals, I know most people listening probably have, you know the basic setup. There's a main stage. There's usually a couple other stages maybe. And at Gray Fox, there was the grassroots stage. And this was a place where it was supposed to be more workshop-y. And people hear workshop, and you would sit and you'd look, and everyone would have instruments on their laps. But when they say workshop, they really mean more of a master class. As in, these are the people who are on the main stage, and they're coming and they're sitting on that stage, and they're telling you about how they do things, different styles and techniques. But the people sitting in the audience who are beginners, they're more, what does a capo do? And can I strum a few chords? And my dad, seeing that, and also having an experience in Rhode Island, being at a jam and having one guitar show up that really folk strummed its way right into jam busting, he thought, I'd love to have said something to that guitar player. He didn't know that he ruined that jam. And if I had a class, I could do that. And so we went to Gray Fox, and he said, I think we're missing something here. I think that there are people who just want to learn how to jam. They aren't really interested in getting on the main stage and learning all the amazing things you can learn from the pros. I mean, that tent is always full. People want that. But they're looking to learn how to jam. And that's what I'd like to teach. And he set it up. They gave him 1 hour at the end of the day in the grassroots stage. And it was such a success that the next year they said, Here's your tent. And so since then, for about, I guess, 15 years, that's how we did it. And I joined him as a kind of co-teacher. But then he connected with Pete and realized this would be one way to do it. They're free classes if you're planning to come to Gray Fox. I hope that you will come and stop by. It'll be Friday and Saturday, 12, 2, and 4. On both days, just 2-hour sessions or 2-hour class, really, that you can come. For the first hour, we'll teach you what you need. For the second hour, you'll jam. So please don't leave your instruments at home. I don't know how many people come and they say, you know what? I didn't bring my instrument because I don't know how to jam. I do play guitar. I do play mandolin. I've been messing around for a little. I don't care if you just bought your instrument that day at the festival. Come, join us. We'll help you learn what you need to know, and you can be jamming with people in 1 hour. So it really has been a nice kind of meeting of the two to have what we were doing at Gray Fox come together with Pete. And then my dad became a certified teacher in Rhode Island, and then I became a certified teacher in Rhode Island. So the two worlds have come together.
Yes. And so 3 years ago, I brought my sister to Gray Fox for the first time. And she, like many people listening, have played the guitar and come and sat in on some jams with me and different things. And we're going to Gray Fox, which I've been going to since 2011 or 12. So I'm well immersed in the bluegrass world and the jamming world. And she was needing a lot of support. And I said, Jen, look at this on the table. Here's this Wernick method class. This is before I became a Wernick instructor. Go down. And so here's somebody that was already pretty good and could make her way and could lead a song. She went down and it just made all the difference for her. And not only did it make all the difference for her, but it made all the difference for me because she was so much more comfortable. And she basically came back and was like, oh, I see. Because she had really learned about the etiquette, the nuances and that kind of thing. So if anybody is listening and going to Gray Fox, highly recommend that, even just to go down and say hi to Erin and Paul and get in and jam together.
Yeah. And if you feel you want something more intensive beforehand, there's also a camp that's going to run like a festival camp right before Gray Fox. And that's with Scott Hopkins. So if you go to Wernick Method and you go look for camps and classes, you're going to find that. So you could start your festival early.
That's true.
Come a little bit early. And because we are running the 2-hour and they're free classes, but there's only so much you can cover in those 2 hours. So if you really feel like, actually, I could use just a few days to kind of really get my head around this, then you can show up to the festival and you can take our classes too while you're there. Stop in and jam with us, but you might just feel a little more confident getting out that first night, getting out to the jams that are happening all over the festival.
Yes. Scott's an excellent teacher. It's at the Firehouse right across from the street from Gray Fox. So definitely look on the website for that. And also I'll do one other quick plug around Gray Fox. Bluegrass Brooklyn being the podcast in residence, we are hosting 3 jams. One on Thursday, one on Friday, and one on Saturday from 5 to 6:30 at what they're going to call the Fox Hollow, which is a new little tent area by the beer tent. And that's a very important piece of information right there along where all the vendors are. And then behind there, there's going to be an area where there is going to be a little tent. And we're going to do a jam each night. One night's going to be the Women's Voices Jam. One is going to be a singing jam, focus on singing, not on instruments. And the third one is going to be what we call an outlaw jam, where it's all songs about prison or anything.
I'm going to look forward to stopping in for that. That sounds amazing.
So between me and Mike and my sister Jen, we're going to be leading those jams. So look for us. It's going to be in the schedule. So once you go to either Scott's class or Erin's class, and now you're feeling like you know how to jam, come on over to that tent and play with us for sure.
And one of the things that I think is we have a lot of return students in our Warnick Method classes. I'm not sure if you do too, Liz, just students who come back. And I think that there are some people who might say, well, if you've already learned it, why are you going to come back? And it's kind of like a yoga class. I mean, you might know how to do yoga on your own, but you just like that someone is moderating. And it's intimidating to just go up to a group of people at a campsite. And some of the best music will happen that way. I encourage people to get over those nerves. But it's so wonderful that festivals are starting to have things like you're going to have with Bluegrass Brooklyn, that there are opportunities that we're making for you to make music with other people. So yeah, you could spend the whole weekend. You could come with Scott Hopkins' class beforehand. You could come to our grade 5 classes in the evenings. You could go and make some time for the main stage. And it's going to be a pretty amazing festival. But it's really great that I find so much joy in making music with other people. And it makes me sad that some people want to do that. I know some people might not want to, but there are people who want to do that and feel like they don't understand how to do it or what their path into it is. And Liz is very welcoming. I'm very welcoming. My dad's very welcoming. You are welcome to join us. Scott's very welcoming.
Yes, absolutely. I saw a little cartoon they passed by on Facebook. It's two fellows standing in what's obviously a coffee in the office, right? They're standing next to the coffee machine, and the one guy has a guitar in his hand, but he's clearly at work. And the other guy was like, "What's up?" And he goes, "Well, called a bluegrass jam." He goes, "Yeah, I went to a festival this past weekend, and now it's pretty much all I'm going to do for the rest of my life." You can come to the whole thing. You can start on Monday. You can come previous to that to the Foxhole and do a whole previous week. But that's what I'm going to do. You'll get there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Rhode Island jamming scene, because that's something that you mentioned. And you were telling me before there's quite a scene going on. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the Rhode Island bluegrass scene, the Rhode Island music scene is phenomenal. As you said, I also play Irish music. I don't play old time, but I will tell you, any week you will find open, welcoming old time sessions, old time Irish sessions, bluegrass jams. You'll find intermediate level. You'll find instructional level. And on the bluegrass side, all put on by the Rhode Island Bluegrass Alliance or by people who are just starting jams. It's something that is really special. And as Irish musicians, we traveled to Ireland. And when we tell people that there are Irish sessions that happen, I think probably 4 a week that we could go to that are open and are within 45 minutes of where I live, they're astonished. But it's the work of some really dedicated people. So on the bluegrass side, the Rhode Island Bluegrass Alliance is a strong, large organization. They put on a Hall of Fame. They put on a holiday pick fest. They put on a small bluegrass festival. And it's interesting because most people did not come from bluegrass. And I think that's why you see a lot of crossover between the different worlds in Rhode Island. They didn't grow up listening to bluegrass often. They came to it, a lot of them now, through the Wernick method, quite honestly, through our classes and through other outreach that the Rhode Island Bluegrass Alliance has done. And for example, someone who took our class maybe 3 years ago, he started a bluegrass jam just in his community. That's an open jam and people come to it. And I think if he hadn't have found his way to bluegrass through the Wernick method, I don't think that would have happened. So it's an interesting world. I welcome anyone to come check out the Rhode Island bluegrass, Irish, old time scene. However you are interested, we're very lucky in this state. It's extremely welcoming.
Yes, that is lucky. And do you feel that people are really looking for this type of thing, meaning bluegrass jams, the community, even in the Irish scene, which I'm not involved with at all, but I know I've been to Ireland, but other than that, none. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think people are craving social interactions with people. And I think that we have a lot of people in Rhode Island, or at least like Southern New England area, who play music or played music when they were kids. And now they're retired and they're interested in getting back in, or we just had a student who's a student at Rhode Island School of Design, and she was a classical violin player and just wanted to make music with other people. And so I think it's the combination of wanting to play music and wanting to have a social connection with other people. And so I think that's what draws people to bluegrass, because it's such a unique music. Irish too. Irish sessions can be a really great social opportunity. But I will say, as an Irish musician, when I first came to Irish after bluegrass, there was a very steep learning curve I needed to hit. I love playing Irish. I encourage people to play Irish music, but there was a lot of sitting around I had to do at Irish sessions to learn enough tunes to be able to participate. And that's just not true of bluegrass. If you have an open, welcoming jam, you can know a few chords, learn some good etiquette, find your local Warnick class and learn the etiquette. And you can go and jam and not be that great of a musician yet.
Right.
And that's something that is very, very unique. I think most other styles of music, you have to have a decent level of competency before you can actually start participating.
And enjoy.
And enjoy it, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful to sit and listen, to go to an Irish session and sit for 2 hours and maybe know 3 tunes and pick up your fiddle when you know those 3 tunes. And it's social and you can chat with people, but you very quickly realize you want to learn about 150 more tunes so that you can participate.
Yeah, that's right. And in bluegrass, it's only 25 tunes. You know, 20 songs and 5 fiddle tunes, and you're in. So, what's the distribution in Rhode Island of how many women show up to jams versus the men?
I will say we have a lot of women who show up now. It wasn't the case when I was a kid. So my story is my dad, Paul Dube, who I mentioned. He's the one who started the slow jam kind of idea at Gray Fox. He's also how I got connected to this. When I was 16, I learned how to play the guitar, and it was because my dad was going out to bluegrass jams. And he will tell you, they weren't very bluegrass. They were called bluegrass jams, but there was a lot of folk and all these other elements woven in. And it's only now that he can look back and say, gosh, I learned a lot. And that's what I think makes him and me really good teachers, that it wasn't something that we grew up from the age of 5 doing. We learned it mostly as adults. So when I was going to these jams, I was going as my dad's daughter. I learned very quickly that with my nerves, as most people will have, passing on a few breaks meant I never got offered breaks anymore. As a guitar player, people just didn't expect me to take breaks. And now I tell people, don't pass on breaks. Just take them, because people will assume you're not going to take them anymore. But it was something that I had to work to overcome. And I was probably one of none of other women at a lot of jams. And that still can be the case, but there is a very strong growth of women in jamming. And I do know of some women who have formed just jam circles of women.
Yeah. So there's a jam here in New York City at the Astoria Whiskey Bar, it's called. And I love going there. Really great musicians, very friendly people. Definitely a fast jam. There's a microphone. And I've been going since the days that I played the ukulele. And now I play the guitar. And every time I go, one of the fellows there is like, remember when you played the ukulele? Yes, I remember when I played the ukulele. But it's a compliment. He's saying, look at what you've learned and all that. And so most of those fellows don't offer me a break, which I take now. Exactly what you said. Too many times in the past, I said no or was passed. And it was fascinating to me. I was the only woman there. And even though I know everybody and they're friendly, there were a couple people that came in that didn't really know me. Only one person all night asked me if I wanted to take a break. That's number one. And number two is, so this other fellow came in, super friendly, and he didn't offer me a break. And I thought to myself, you have no idea. I could be Molly Tuttle's sister. You have no idea who I am. And it's an awkward time for me because I'm not that skilled yet at taking breaks, but I've committed to, if anybody asks me, I always do, unless it's a 6-chord circle of fifth song that's not really a bluegrass song anyway. But, rolling on my sweet baby's arms, I can get up and take a break. I think it should be part of etiquette where if you don't know somebody, just ask them the first time, do they want to take a break or not?
Yeah, that's a great point. Definitely something that we could, as Warnick method instructors, make sure we're passing on. I think that the biggest way I am aware of it, is people are much more willing to give feedback to you when you are a female in a jam. And I'll notice that a lot sitting in a jam circle. The biggest will be on what key you should sing in. And I find that a lot of guys will tell me, just sing in lower keys. Just move your key down, move your key down. And I wish I could remember who said this because it was a bluegrass musician. They said, yeah, guys want every woman to kind of sound like a guy, Just keep moving that key down and eventually your voice won't sound like your voice anymore. And I'm lucky that I have the confidence to, at this point, say, this is my song. This is how I'm going to do it. But I'll sit there and watch and say, gosh, 7 of us did songs. I'm the only one who got feedback. And it's important to take feedback. Sometimes feedback is correct.
Yeah.
But it is something that I think, as a woman going to a jam, remembering that, maybe everyone got feedback, so I'm definitely going to take it. But also knowing you can just do things your way too.
I call that jam-splaining.
That's a good term.
Yeah. It stuns me every time. And people that listen to this podcast may be going, yes, Liz, we've heard this before, but it just stuns me every time. How can I be the only woman to show up to that jam?
Oh, yeah. So I guess it's another thing that I should really feel grateful for, that whether it's an Irish session or bluegrass, it would be odd for me to show up and be the only woman unless it was a very, very small jam. But we have a ton of open jams and open sessions. Our Irish session is usually about 20 people. So it's women fiddle players and bodhrán players. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And it hasn't always been like that. And certainly, again, if anybody comes to New York City and wants to, certainly recommend checking out the Astoria Whiskey Bar Jam, which happens on Sundays, every Sunday, year round, except for Super Bowl Sunday. That's the only day that they happen.
And my bluegrass plug is for the Rhode Island community or the Southern New England community, is you have to go to Rhode Island Bluegrass Alliance, RIBA, their page. They have all the events, all the jams. And so it's one place so you can find out everything you need to know about bluegrass in this state.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. And I feel that type of thing is growing. Of course, people know, I don't know if you know, but most people know my website, bluegrassjamsnearme.com. And I do have a list of the associations on there. So that's because many times the associations can take you to where the jams are. Well, this has been a great conversation, wide-ranging, lots about the Warnick folks, lots about Gray Fox, lots about Reba, and anybody listening, to just encourage you, as Erin said, bring your instrument when you come, even if you just hold it and play G when it comes around.
I'm a professor. I teach writing, I teach English, and I teach college students. So they're young adults. I call them adults, but they're really only 18 years old. And then I teach Warnick method, and I have adult students. And I say, we have this myth in our head that children are just naturally better at learning. And I really don't think that's true. I think they're better at learning because they're encouraged at every step of the way. I think that when a kid picks up a guitar and strums it in front of their parents, the first thing their parents say is, wow, great job. Not, well, do you know anything else? And then they make their G chord and they strum it and it doesn't sound great. And their parents go, great job. And so they keep going. But as adult learners, all we see is what we can't do. We don't ever see what we can do. And I tell my students over and over again, you have to be that parent to yourself. You have to pick up that guitar. You have to strum it. No, you didn't do it great. That's fine. Still say, great job. And then make that G chord and know your fingers are killing you and say, great job. And if you can just have that mentality, you will learn like a child. You'll learn quickly. You'll keep coming back to it. And you have to just turn off that part that says, oh, I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm not at that point. And just constantly tell yourself, okay, but look what I just did. That's amazing. Because it is amazing. It's amazing to do something new and learn something new.
And it's really fun and it's really cool.
Exactly.
Wonderful insight. So thank you for that. Well, again, thank you. Make sure to check out Reba. If you do want to reach out to Erin and get more of her insights and learn more about what she's doing in Rhode Island, you can certainly reach out to her through the Wernick Method site or show up to Great Box and come and play music with her.
Excellent. We can't wait to have you there.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Liz Wolfe. Please subscribe to our podcast and follow us on our social media so you never miss an episode. You can find us online at bluegrassbrooklyn.com. Brooklyn is spelled BKLYN. See you around the jam circle.